Here on Earth, 200 years ago today, the Royal National Lifeboat Institution was founded in a tavern in London. Well, since then, the charity has saved more than 140,000 people who got into trouble at sea. Well, this morning, a service of thanksgiving has been held at Westminster Abbey to mark the organisation's bicentenary. The RNLI's chief executive says it's a remarkable milestone. Our correspondent Fiona Lambdin's been to meet some of those who were rescued and also the crews who saved their lives.
I'd been fishing only sort of 15 or 20 minutes before I started feeling a bit uneasy about the depth of the water around me. The water was getting deeper and deeper. I turned to try and get back to the beach. Within seconds, literally, I was on my hands and knees, crawling, trying to get back up out of the water. And before I knew it, the waves had sort of swept over me. And I was being taken out to sea.
OK, guys, go, go, go. Milford, Porthcawl Lifeboat for information. We've done an emergency beach landing. Person not conscious, not breathing.
We were expecting the worst.
I honestly thought, that's it, it's all over.
You doing all right, buddy?
When we arrived on the beach, it was looking very, very bleak.
We were continuing CPR, the compressions and the rescue breaths, and then suddenly we just heard this breath come from Mike.
Over the last 200 years, the RNLI has rescued 146,000 lives. But sometimes rescues end in tragedy. Over 800 crew members have died trying to save others. In 1916, the RNLI suffered a huge loss when 15 volunteers set out on a daring rescue in Salcombe. Only 2 returned home alive.
He literally left from the lifeboat station, which was behind us now, and they went to aid of a schooner. The crew had been rescued by the Coast Guard, so they turned round, and the weather on the bar was horrendous. And then on the second attempt to come back in, they unfortunately capsized and the rest drowned and only 2 survived. Well, my great-grandfather was one of the 2 survivors. Heart and soul of the town was ripped out when that disaster happened.
Well, this is one of the RNLI's 162 all-weather lifeboats. It's out of Salcombe on average about once a week. And in the last year, it's helped over 100 people.
Back in Wales, the crew are reunited with Mike, the man they saved.
Good to see you, mate. How are you doing? You okay? It is. It is. Fancy seeing you here.
It's fantastic to meet them. There's some people that are involved I had no idea existed until just a few minutes ago. And to see them for the first time is just absolutely fantastic.
Those cold, bleak nights when the pager goes off or when we're doing training, you know, when I'm faced with Mike and able to shake his hand and see that he's fit and well, it absolutely makes it all very worthwhile.
Fiona Lambdin, BBC News.
As we've been hearing, the RNLI is marking its 200th anniversary today. The charity began with a meeting in the London Tavern in Bishopsgate in 1824 with a commitment to save lives at sea. But it wasn't until 2002 that the River Thames got its own dedicated lifeboats, along with 4 lifeboat stations. Thousands of people have now been rescued from the Thames, a river that can pose a host of challenges, as Victoria Hollins has been finding out.
Tucked away in the archives of the RNLI, the story of how the charity, set up to save lives at sea, began on dry land in central London 200 years ago.
On the 4th of March 1824, in the City of London Tavern, a group of men got together to establish the charity. And what we have here are the minutes of the very first meeting. What they're setting out here is the core principles of the organisation.
The London Tavern meeting house is long gone, but at the base of a gleaming tower in Bishopsgate, a tribute carved in stone remains. The record of the first meeting reads like a who's who of 19th century London society.
The person chairing the meeting was the Archbishop of Canterbury, lots of MPs, City of London MPs. One of those MPs was William Wilberforce, the famous anti-slavery campaigner.
Decades later, the RNLI's storeyard was built in Poplar, where damaged lifeboats were repaired. The local boat building community also crafted the vessels. But it would take the Marchioness disaster on the Thames in August 1989 for a dedicated lifeboat service to even be considered. 51 people lost their lives when the party boat collided with a dredger. Nearly 13 years later, in 2002, the Thames lifeboats came into service after a fundamental review of emergency response procedures on the river. Janet Kelly helped set up and then ran the Tower Lifeboat Station for 14 years.
The Thames Division, which is part of the Metropolitan Police, they didn't want their Waterloo Police Pier, which is by Waterloo Bridge. The police were very generous and allowed the RNLI to buy the pier for a token sum of £1.
But it was a very useful spot to have, I suppose.
For us in the middle of London, to be where we were there was priceless.
The Thames lifeboats have been called out more than 18,000 times since 2002 and saved dozens of lives. So what would its founders think of the charity today?
I think they'd be very proud indeed of where we've come. They would also recognise huge elements of the RNLI today and what they thought about all those years ago.
A celebration then of courage, commitment and donations that have helped save thousands of lives across 2 centuries. Victoria Hollins, BBC London.